What happens when a team realizes that patience might be more valuable than panic? When do you trust your prospects enough to say, we don't need to mortgage the future because the future is already here? Welcome back, folks. It's Tuesday, January 13th, 2026, and we got a fascinating update on the Montreal Canadiens trade deadline strategy. According to a report from Nestor Quickston, Kent Hughes is operating with ice-cold precision. Despite the injuries piling up, Lane, Newhook, and Doc all on the shelf, Montreal isn't panicking. They're not making desperate moves. They're sticking to their plan, and that plan has three specific names at the top of the board. Let's start with the most exciting development. Alex Tuch is officially in the conversation. The report states, if Alex Tuch becomes available, that's a player I see Montreal going after. This is the dream scenario we've been talking about. Tuch is everything you want in a modern power forward. 6'4", fast, physical, productive, and he's got ties to the region. Grew up in upstate New York as a Sabres fan, but the cultural fit with Montreal is perfect. If Buffalo finally admits the season is lost and decides to sell, Montreal has the assets to make a serious run at Tuch. And unlike some of the other names being floated around, Tuch isn't a rental. He's signed long-term. He's a piece you can build around for years. He's the kind of acquisition that changes your franchise trajectory. But here's the reality. Buffalo has to make him available first. And that's a big if. The Sabres have been in crisis mode for years, perpetually believing they're one move away from contending. Will they finally accept reality and start selling? That's the question Kent Hughes is waiting to have answered. While we wait on Tuch, let's talk about the realistic options. Kiefer Sherwood and Blake Coleman. The report confirms what we've been discussing for weeks. I've heard they're still interested in Sherwood and have checked in on Coleman. These are the tactical moves the players Montreal can actually acquire without breaking the bank. Sherwood brings pure energy and physicality. He's the hits leader, the guy who changes momentum of a game with a crushing check. He's the kind of player playoff teams need when games get ugly and physical. Coleman brings championship pedigree, two-way reliability, and that same physical edge. With Philip Danault already stabilizing the defensive side of things, adding Coleman or Sherwood would transform Montreal's third line into a wrecking crew that opponents absolutely hate facing. These aren't the sexy, headline-grabbing moves, but they're the smart, calculated additions that make good teams better. They're the kind of depth pieces that win playoff series. Now here's where this report gets really interesting, and it explains why Montreal isn't desperately scrambling to find a top six center despite all the injuries. Michael Hage. The report states, Hage had a fantastic showing at the World Juniors. This situation has led the Canadiens to become bullish about his potential. Management believes Hage is the future second-line center behind Nick Suzuki. They see him as a long-term answer, which means spending a fortune right now on someone like Trevor Zegras would be redundant. This is huge. This is Kent Hughes looking at his prospect pool and saying, we don't need to trade for the future because we've already drafted it. That's the confidence that comes from smart drafting and player development. That's what allows you to be patient when other teams are panicking. Yes, Kirby Dach's injury hurts. Yes, having Newhook and Lane on the shelf creates depth issues. But Oliver Kapanen has stepped up and held things together. The team is still winning. They're still in third place. And most importantly, they can see the light at the end of the tunnel with Hage developing rapidly. This is exactly the kind of organizational depth that separates contenders from pretenders. When you lose multiple centers to injury and you don't fall apart because you've got prospects ready to step in and veterans who can adjust their roles, that's when you know you built something sustainable. The report includes a critical line that I want to emphasize. If Canadiens fans are expecting a big splash, they might be disappointed, at least this season. Hughes isn't going to splurge. He's not going to overpay. He's going to wait for the right deal with teams on the bubble like the Blues, Predators, or Flames. If Coleman's price drops because Calgary gets desperate, Montreal pounces. If Tuch suddenly hits the market because Buffalo finally accepts reality, Hughes has the assets ready. But if neither of those things happen, they trust the process. They believe in their young players. They're confident that what they have is good enough to compete. This is the new Montreal Canadiens. Patient, disciplined, strategic. No more panic trades. No more mortgaging the future for short-term fixes. Just smart, calculated roster management that prioritizes long-term success over immediate gratification. And you know what? Based on everything we've seen, that approach is working. Montreal is exceeding expectations. The young core is producing. The veterans they've added, Dan Alt being the prime example, are fitting in perfectly. The prospects are developing ahead of schedule. Sometimes the best move is no move. Sometimes patience is the most valuable asset a general manager can have. And right now, Ken Hughes is showing exactly why that's true. So here's what we're watching for over the next few weeks. Does Buffalo make Tuch available? Does Calgary get desperate enough to lower their asking price for Coleman? Does Vancouver decide to move Sherwood at a reasonable cost? Those are the dominoes that need to fall for Montreal to make a move. But if they don't fall, if the prices stay too high, Montreal isn't going to force it. They're going to stick with what they have, trust their young players, and believe that Michael Hage and the rest of their prospect pool represent a better long-term investment than any rental they could acquire right now. That's smart management. That's how you build a dynasty instead of a one-year wonder. And that's exactly what Ken Hughes is doing in Montreal. What do you think, folks? Should Montreal be more aggressive and go after Alex Tuch even if the price is high? Or is the patient approach the right one? Trusting in Michael Hage and internal development? Would you rather see a big splash or smart, calculated depth moves? Drop your thoughts in the comment below. And don't forget to hit that like button, because we're tracking every development, every rumor, and every decision as the Canadiens continue to build something special in Montreal.